Hi, everyone. I'm going to bring the meeting to order. My name is Vicki Eppler. I'm the president of Congress Park Neighbors, RNO. Congress Park Neighbors has been an RNO for over 40 years. We're run by neighborhood volunteers, and our goal is to provide accurate information to neighbors about the neighborhood and the issues that city government is deciding on and managing. The board does not take a position on issues or at a city meeting without doing a survey of the neighborhood and representing what the neighbors' desires are. Right now, we're confronted with several neighborhood issues and goals that we're working on that I will talk about later in the announcements as well. But everyone, please take note of the Teller Backpack Program, and we're making a matching donation with them. We're continuing to try and work in several directions on the trash problem, and we have upcoming issues next year with BRT, which we'll be talking about. Tonight, the meeting will be recorded. Please, as much as you can, direct questions to the chat. I know that doesn't always work, so I will also try to call on people with questions. We have several presenters tonight that are going to talk about issues that are on the upcoming ballot. I suspect most people are starting to get their ballots this week. This meeting is being recorded. We welcome homeowners and renters alike to join us in these meetings. I invited Hannah Ruiz and Denver Police to come to our meeting tonight because several neighbors, we all are, have been really concerned about the increase in crime. Unfortunately, there is supposed to be a community outreach officer.
Here she is.
Is she here?
Yes.
That would be great. Okay, great. So Hannah's here, and I was going to, when she gets connected, I'll introduce her. And she's our first speaker tonight. Hannah.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you so much for coming. I hadn't heard from you, so I didn't know if you would make it. But it's great to see you here. Can you give us an update on how the police see what's going on in our neighborhood?
Yeah, I have our stats here, and I apologize for all the noise because unfortunately I got your notice today for the meeting, so I'm doing dual duties. So
thank you.
I'm at an event too. So I apologize again for the noise, but I will give you some of our stats right now. Let me see, I'm sorry. Okay, it looks like our residential burglaries, and this is going from August to up to this month, our residential burglaries are up 9%. Vandalism is up 11%. Our theft is up 16%. Motor vehicle theft, 29%. And burglary theft from motor vehicles is 27%. So overall, we are moving up instead of down. It looks like simple assaults is up 2%, robbery is up 2%, and aggravated assault is up 4%. So we're not trending in the right direction, but hopefully we can curtail that somehow. And I don't, we're working as hard as we can. I know the guys on patrol are working hard, and there's so few of them. They're doing their best. But does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
You need to unmute, Vicki.
Sorry, everyone. This period of time was from August until now. Is that correct? The crime increase? Can
Sorry.
anyone-
I'm sorry, I'm unmuting and muting at the same time. Yes, it does show overall there's an increase in crime overall.
How is the police department responding to Congress Park in particular? Are we getting increased patrols?
I will say overall throughout the whole District 2, we have crime going up in every area. So we do still have our precinct cars who actually concentrate in certain precinct areas. So in Congress Park, unless they're needed for calls, they will respond and try to do some extra patrol in the areas most needed. And they're doing their best to do that. And I do want to give them credit. They're trying.
I have 2 VIPs going for the street.
With the low staffing that we have right now.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Hannah, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, and I apologize again. I'm so sorry, but
It's okay.
it's
I
kind of a
know,
last minute. Yeah.
I know there's staffing problems as well, but thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
And if people have questions, please ask them to email me or call me, either one,
Okay.
and I will try to get the answers that I can for them. And we'll go from there, and hopefully we can get all this crime under control.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for your service.
Thank you.
Our next guest is going to talk about yes on 21, the library amendment. That's Bob Sarlo, right, Bob? Bob?
Yes, I'm
Hi.
I'm coming. I got a little computer here and my fingers are fatter than most of the keys. Yes, I'm here to talk about ballot issue 2I. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay. We cringed when we got the ballot number and they just assign them alphabetically. And actually we were the first one this year and we were lucky 2I. So it looks like 21, all of our yard signs have a really nice block print I there. So that should clear it up. But my name is Bob Sarlo. I'm a trustee on the board of the Denver Public Library Friends Foundation. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about issue 2I, which is a move to get the library with some sustainable funding that we can rely on a year-to-year basis. The library has been in Denver since 1889. We currently have 27 branches throughout the city, with 2 more on the way in Westwood neighborhood and Globeville. It's one of the few places in the city where you can show up, it's free, it's accessible to everybody, it's welcoming to all, and it's a well-used community resource throughout the city. In 2019, we had over 4 million in-site visits to the library system itself. That's more than the zoo, the Museum of Nature and Science, and the Denver Art Museum combined. And those were all free admissions. So Denver, as everybody knows, has grown and expanded, especially in the last decade. And unfortunately, funding has not kept pace with that expansion, with all of the demands placed on library services. So earlier this year, the Library Commission was commissioned to conduct a survey to figure out the best way for the library to attain sustainable funding. They researched several options, and a property tax mill levy came out as the most equitable way to raise funds for the library. A 1.5 mil levy on your property taxes. An average priced home in Denver, which I think currently is a little over $420,000, would cost $4.19 a month. If you want to assess the impact that that mill levy would have on your property, on our website, yes, on 2i.org, there's a calculator there, and you can plug that in and it'll tell you how much it's expected to cost you over the a year in the value of your house. There are things that this money is really earmarked for. One of them is to raise the wage rates of the staff in the library ends up to a market level. Right now, they are all working at below market level rates. It makes it really hard to retain quality people when you can't afford to pay them what they can make somewhere else. It will also go towards increasing library hours. One of the things that we recognize, and one of the things that we've strived for years, is to expand the library hours. Unfortunately, when there are funding cuts, those are usually the first things to go. But we'd like to open the libraries 6 to 7 days a week. Some branches will be open 7 days a week. Some will be open 6. We'd like to open them from, let's say, 8 in the morning until 7 at night, instead of 10 in the morning till 5 at night, because it's hard for most people to get to a situation where they're accessible between 10 and 5 if you're working all the time. So that's one of the items. We need to increase our collections. The inflationary pressures that they're putting on books and audio tapes and services that service books is great. It's been years since we really had our budget request fully funded for collections. And with the increased interest in Kindle type books and audio books, the cost of those is exponentially more than print books, because they come with a limited number of checkouts, and they're much more expensive than print books. And when you reach your 20 checkout items, you have to buy that product again, and they're very popular. So that's one item. And we'd also like to expand and diversify our collections to more fully serve our diverse population that uses the library. That's just a few of the things that it would be used for. The city council this year, on a vote of 11-1, recommended that after reading the results of the commission survey, that they extend the chance to the voters to vote on and approve this issue. And we're very appreciative of that. And if you have any questions, I'm more than welcome to hear them, and I'll answer them the best I can. But thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you tonight.
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Nora Kelly. I live in Congress Park on 9th and Fillmore. And my question is, I use the downtown library, and I've noticed that it's been in construction now for, well, gosh, it's been at least 2 years, and now they're doing even more things. And I'm wondering why, and I don't mean to sound bombastic, but why the library's asking for more money when they're doing construction on the library to improve it. I'm just wondering, I guess I'm wondering how much of that money that the library will get will just go to construction.
The library has always participated in the city bond issues. All of the construction in the libraries over the years has been funded by the bond programs over the various years. You're right, it's been under construction for at least 2 years. It will probably be under construction for another 1.5 years. It's a big project. The estimated cost when we submitted it to the city for funding was $60 million. And they gave us a budget of around half of that. We've been trying to raise money from private sector to supplement that funding, and we've been successful a little bit in that area. But I understand your frustrations. We started construction probably 2 months before COVID struck. That certainly put a big crimp on everything as we got sorted out as to how that construction would take place. The children's library is finished. It is currently open in the downtown branch. All of the restrooms have been remodeled, which is probably good news if you ever ventured into those. It's going to be a beautiful place, and you're right, it's taking a long time, and I appreciate your frustration. There will be money for maintenance in this part of the funds that will be raised. The city will still participate in partial funding of the library, and the library will still be able to participate in bond projects. But with 29 facilities and that many visitors, the amount of wear and tear on the facilities is great. And it's always been hard to keep up with maintenance because of the reduced funding that's been available over the last 2 decades. So all the branches, except for right now, Cherry Creek, are open. And we realize that it's a real impact when they're not.
Can you address what's going on in Cherry Creek?
I can tell you what I know. So
Okay.
I guess it's been about 8 months ago now that the library discovered some very, very tiny cracks in the precast or the concrete columns holding up that great big first floor roof above there. They were concerned enough to hire a structural engineer, and the building has undergone a complete structural analysis. The report is due out any time now. The expectation is that there will be repairs that will need to be made, but that is it. They were very thorough in the investigations, as you might imagine. All the rumors about the library closing, the library being sold, the land being disappeared are totally unfounded. There will always be a library on the corner of 3rd and Fillmore, I think. That was my library growing up, so I remember that very well, but it'll always be there. It's just one of those things that they're erring on the side of caution. And I have not seen the results of the study, but I imagine they will be made public very shortly.
Thank you, because I think you dispelled a lot of concerns. Another question we have is, how much does Denver contribute to the library currently, to their budget?
About $26 million.
And what are the
Excuse
other?
me, I'm sorry, more than that. Between $45 and $50 million is what the city budget process is kind of funny. You submit a budget, and then they dissect it and they give you what you get. So, we probably ask for much more money than that, but that's on the average of what we end up with every year. The mill levy is expected to raise an additional $32 million. That would put us on par with the libraries that we're always compared to, and we consider our peers: Seattle, San Francisco, Washington, D.C. The Denver Library has been one of the top 5 libraries in the country for decades. And most of those libraries are funded with a dedicated property tax. Denver, up until this election, has been funded strictly from the general fund of the city and subject to the ability of the city to fund as much as it can. So,
Bob, thank you for the information tonight. We really appreciate your coming.
thank you very much, you guys. This is a great turnout for a neighborhood meeting. I've spoken at a lot of them over the last month. This is a great turnout. This is the neighborhood I grew up in. I have incredible fond memories of Congress Park. So thank you all. Have a great evening. Vote yes on 2I, and go to the website if you have any questions. It's a very good website, and there's a lot of places to leave questions if you have them. So thank you very much. You all have a great evening.
Our next speaker is going to talk to us about the Sidewalks. Jill, I'm sure I saw you here
Yes,
early.
here I am.
Jill, I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about your initiative.
And I do have a PowerPoint, if you can give me screen sharing ability.
Let me see if,
Just a second. There you go.
Excellent, thank you. So I am delighted to join you to talk to you tonight about Denver Deserves Sidewalks, also known as Initiative 307 on your ballot. Sidewalks is an issue that I personally have been working on for 7 years, but there are many community members and neighborhood organizations that have been advocating for better sidewalks in Denver for literally decades. So this initiative is very much the culmination of many years of community advocacy. The proposed ordinance would publicly fund the construction and repair of sidewalks citywide, so we can all get around our neighborhoods and the city more freely and safely. This is a departure from the current policy that places all of the responsibility on the adjacent private property owner to build the sidewalk in the first place and to make any needed repairs, which is the equivalent of requiring homeowners to fill the potholes or to pave the street or fix the storm sewers in front of their house. And it turns out that that's not a great way to build out a functional network of infrastructure. Currently in Denver, 40% of our streets either have no sidewalk at all, or a sidewalk that's too skinny for a person in a wheelchair or a parent with a stroller, or just two people walking side by side, which makes it really difficult for all of us to get around, but is particularly burdensome for people with disabilities, parents, and lower income households that depend on sidewalks to get to transit or other daily destinations. And we also know that low income neighborhoods are the least likely to have a complete, well-maintained sidewalk network. Meanwhile, the policies that force adjacent property owners to cover the full cost of sidewalk repairs can be a huge financial burden. It can be thousands of dollars or even tens of thousands of dollars to repair a sidewalk adjacent to a single family home. So the proposed initiative would remove the responsibility for repairs from the adjacent private property owner and place it squarely on the city, just like the city is responsible for street paving and maintaining other basic infrastructure. It would fund the construction and repair of sidewalks through a modest annual fee charged to all property owners in Denver. It's modeled after the stormwater fee that all property owners currently pay in order to fund construction and repairs of our stormwater system. With this dedicated funding source, that would enable the completion of our sidewalk network within 9 years, compared to the trajectory we're currently on with the meager amount of public funding available for sidewalks. It would take 400 years to build out the complete network. It would also be a sustained dedicated funding source for sidewalk repairs in perpetuity. We think it would be irresponsible to build out the network without a plan and a funding source for ongoing repairs. We do not want to create an unfunded liability for future generations. So the funding would be there permanently, and homeowners would never have to worry again about repairing the sidewalk adjacent to their property. This is not just about infrastructure, but it's about the livability of our neighborhoods and our values as a community. It's about creating safe routes to school for our kiddos. I know a lot of parents who would like to let their kids walk to school, but don't feel safe letting them do so without good sidewalks. And it's about traffic safety more generally. People walking are 30 times more likely to die in a traffic crash compared to people driving or riding in a car. This year to date, 22 people have been killed trying to walk on Denver's streets, and the lack of safe pedestrian infrastructure is a major contributing factor. It's also about providing good access to transit. If you've ridden the bus in Denver, you know a lot of our bus stops are just a stick in the mud without safe access to or from that stop. And it's about achieving our environmental goals. Driving is one of the major contributors to air pollution generally and greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, we can't walk for every single trip. But again, I know a lot of people who would like to be able to walk to their neighborhood park or grocery store, but don't feel safe, even if it's just a few blocks away, and so choose to drive instead. So the fee is based on the linear frontage of the property and the type of street that the property is located on. Denver's various planning documents identify what the preferred sidewalk width is for different types of streets. So for example, in downtown Denver, the preferred width is 12-foot wide sidewalks to accommodate all of the people walking downtown. On mixed use or main streets like a Colfax Avenue, the preferred width is 8 feet wide. And on local residential streets, the preferred width is 6 feet wide. So by combining the linear frontage of the property with the preferred sidewalk width, the fee is pretty directly tied to how many square feet of concrete would you need to build or maintain the ideal sidewalk adjacent to that property. So for a typical single family home in Denver, the estimated fee would be about $107 per year or about $9 per month. We also put a lot of thought about how to equitably distribute the cost without placing an undue burden on lower income households, and recognizing that there are lower income neighborhoods in Denver that historically have received less investment in all kinds of infrastructure, not just sidewalks, and wanting to correct for that historic inequity. So the program offers an automatic 20% discount for low-income neighborhoods that have been designated through Denver's Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization, or NEST program. That currently includes the neighborhoods that are listed here. As the city periodically reviews and updates and makes changes to which neighborhoods receive that designation, the discount would follow that designation. So with that 20% discount, again, the typical single family home would pay about $86 per year or about $7 per month. The revenue could only be used for sidewalks, building new sidewalks where they're missing, sidewalk upgrades to widen the skinny sidewalks and make sure they're meeting ADA standards. And again, making ongoing repairs to sidewalks as needed, as well as any costs required to administer the program in terms of staffing and the like. We know there are lots of other things we need to make our streets more safe and comfortable for everybody, including street trees and pedestrian scale lighting and bus stop amenities. And we would love to see all of those things funded, but that is not the purpose of this program in particular. It would also not include things like landscaping or curb and gutter unless as needed in the course of building or repairing a sidewalk. If those items need to be dealt with, the fees could be used for those purposes. It would be managed by the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, just like they manage our annual street paving program and other infrastructure programs. We did build in some transparency and accountability. DOTI would have to present a comprehensive plan for how they're going to implement this program to the advisory board, which includes citizen representatives from across the city. The advisory board would have to approve that plan and also receive annual updates on how the program is going, what's been accomplished, what's the outlook going forward. And that would be a great venue as well to identify any tweaks or changes that might need to be made to the program to ensure that it is achieving the intended outcome of a complete, well-maintained sidewalk network and an equitable funding system. The proposal also directs DOTI to use all of the existing plans that we have already developed as a community to guide the implementation of the program. In particular, our Vision Zero action plan, which is about eliminating traffic fatalities, and our Denver Moves Pedestrians and Trails plan, which has already laid out a prioritization for building out the network, starting with the most dangerous streets where the preponderance of traffic fatalities are happening, streets like Colfax Avenue, Colorado Boulevard, followed by major transit corridors, which unfortunately often overlap with those most dangerous streets. Again, include streets like Colfax and Colorado Boulevard, followed by other streets connecting to high priority pedestrian destinations, places like schools and parks and grocery stores. And then finally, it does also direct the Department of Transportation to, where possible, re-level and reset existing flagstone sidewalks so that we can maintain that historic character in neighborhoods. If the flagstone has been totally destroyed, it does not mandate that the city go out and buy brand new flagstones. That is very, very expensive. So we thought it would be fiscally irresponsible to mandate that, but it does direct ADI to maintain existing flagstone where possible. So this is a citizen initiated ordinance. As I mentioned, community members have been advocating for this for many, many years. We collected nearly 20,000 signatures in order to qualify for the November ballot. And we have also been collecting endorsements. We're about at 40 to date, ranging from national organizations like America Walks and Trust for Public Land and the Sierra Club, to statewide organizations like the Colorado Cross Disability Coalition, AARP Colorado, Healthier Colorado, as well as neighborhood groups from across the city. To date, we've gotten endorsements from Sloan's Lake, Ruby Hill, Valverde, Athmar Park, Baker, different business districts like Bluebird, Colfax Ave, Cherry Creek, Rhino. And I understand from Vicki's opening remarks that you all only endorse things if you've polled your neighborhood residents. So I'm not sure if you're planning on doing so, but we would love to add you to the list if you are so inclined. You can learn a ton of information at our website, denversidewalks.com, including reading the full ordinance, an FAQ, background information. There's a form you can fill out to endorse as the neighborhood association. You can also donate or volunteer or request a yard sign. And I will stop sharing my screen and answer any questions you all have.
Who would like to, I'm sure we have questions. Can you raise your hands and I'll call on you? Do we have any?
Looks like Sarah has a question.
Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, Jill. Thanks for the presentation. I was just wondering if homeowners want to replace the sidewalk in front of their home on their own, would the program still allow for that?
Yes, you still could. For example, if you wanted to go out and buy flagstone and put that in front of your house, you would be allowed to do so. You wouldn't necessarily get reimbursed for the city for that cost, but you could do that.
Great, thank you.
Judith?
Sarah, thank you for your presentation. I want to know if a homeowner does replace the sidewalk in front of their house, are they still going to get charged yearly?
Yes, every property in Denver will pay the fee.
Every property in Denver will pay the fee. And so because I live on a corner, I'll pay more than everybody else?
It is proportional to the sidewalk adjacent to your property. Much like today, the current policy is you are responsible for making repairs to the entire length of sidewalk adjacent to your property. So if you were on a corner today, you're responsible for repairing the sidewalk on both sides of the corner, which again could easily be tens of thousands of dollars. The fee is proportional to the amount of sidewalk adjacent to your property, but considerably less than that full cost of repairs. One way to think about it is kind of like an insurance fee. You pay a small amount each year, and then you never have to worry about covering the full cost or even managing that project of replacing the sidewalk adjacent to your home.
So I'm supposed to pay additional taxes when the city of Denver is supposed to be doing this without my additional taxes?
So this is a typical way that we fund infrastructure in Denver. Again, and we modeled it after the stormwater fee. Every property owner in Denver pays a fee based on the impervious surface on their lot, which relates to how much infrastructure is required to serve that lot. That fee revenues are used to pay for construction and repair of our stormwater system citywide. So the idea is to fund our sidewalk system similarly.
Do we have any other questions for Jill? Jill, thank you for coming. We appreciate your presentation tonight. I'm sure it helped everyone with information. Our next speaker is Travis Lieker. He's running for council at large position. Travis, go ahead.
Thank you so much to Congress Park neighbors for welcoming me this evening. Travis Lieker, and I am a candidate for Denver City Council at large, and I have filed for my candidacy to be your next city council person at large, one of 2 at-large seats that will be up for election in April of 2023. And I have been on the campaign trail for 8 months, and as part of my due diligence and work in neighborhoods and communities is to meet with RNOs. And so next up is Congress Park neighbors. A little bit more about me. I was born in Kansas and moved throughout the country as a young kid, and then landed in Colorado in 1997. Where I completed high school in Broomfield and went on to college and pursued 2 degrees from the University of Colorado, one in poli-sci, and then the next in public affairs and administration. I have now lived in Denver for 17 years and have been super active in the community. Some of you may know me in my capacity as president of Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods. And then also others may know me from my work at the University of Colorado for the last 9 years. Actually, I just celebrated my 9-year anniversary today. And in those capacities, I have managed large-scale budgets and public-private partnerships as both at Sean in the president's capacity, and then also at CU. Some other professional background and experience that I bring to the table in the context of this race I was an advisor to now our current governor, Jared Polis, when he was on the State Board of Education. I worked in the conservation movement and was director of development at Conservation Colorado. And I also worked at the White House Project, which trained women to run for political office. Concurrent to some of these professional endeavors, I've also have been on the board of NARAL Pro-Choice Colorado, Conservation Colorado, and the like. With respect to why I'm jumping into this race and how it's influenced by my professional trajectory and background is I like to build and I like to fix organizations and enterprises. I have now taken 2 nonprofit organizations from near bankruptcy to financial solvency and success. I have also taken programming that at the University of Colorado that was often flailing, for the lack of a better word, and brought those public-private partnerships to scale. And that looked like vaccination clinics in low-income communities throughout the metro area, to funding research and pharmaceuticals at the university, to investing in their workforce, ranging from scholarships to for students of diverse backgrounds to other initiatives of the University of Colorado. And so with that turnaround experience, I think it's safe to say that the city and county of Denver is at probably its most critical point in the last 40 years. Certainly this is, in my view, the most consequential election in 40 years. When you go back and look at recounts of what it was like in 1983 in the city, there were conversations about what to do about spikes in homelessness. What do we do about increases in crime and property theft? How do we thoughtfully invest in infrastructure? How do we engage the community, and what sorts of investments are we making in the city? And so that's drawing me into this race. And so a couple of my priorities right now as it relates to this this race and this election and the critical moments that are facing us. One obviously is affordable housing. I am focused like a laser on intentionally developing more affordable housing units, as well as making housing affordability and access more attainable. Just one example, I will be releasing a policy proposal to help the city fast track affordable housing endeavors. Right now, if you're an affordable housing provider in the city and county of Denver, review processes are taking upwards of 3 years to go through the full permitting process. So in the context of where we are, in the city. And the crisis that we are facing with respect to affordable housing is if you were, say, nonprofit XYZ, and you filed your plans to develop affordable housing back in 2019, and then the pandemic happened, your construction costs have nearly tripled. Your labor costs are significantly higher if you can find the labor. And right now, we are not ready for, and nor should we be expecting 3-year delays in terms of site development plan review and permitting and other processes as it relates to affordable housing. So that's just one example of something that I'd like to sink my teeth into in the context of if I were to be entrusted with this role as your next city council person at large. Secondly, homelessness. Certainly it has been informed by my work at Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods. Greater Capitol Hill has been one of the epicenters of the unhoused population crisis in the city. A couple of observations that I have made in the last 7 years, but certainly the last 3 years, is data management is not there where we need it to be. And so we're going to improve data management processes with respect to the city and customized supports for each unhoused individual. And it's been done in other cities and other municipalities of similar size, both with respect to the broader population, homeless population, as well as homeless veterans. And in some municipalities, they have literally brought homelessness down to zero. And certainly Denver should be and could be leading on this. And this is less of a resourcing problem, as we have seen with respect to recent studies and analysis. We're spending plenty of money on the unhoused population. So I do believe that part of the challenge here with respect to those who are unhoused is management and leadership. And I have bared witness to that as president of CHUN. And certainly that is also why I'm getting into this race. Community safety, we were just talking about your crime stats in Congress Park. And those crime statistics are similar to other neighborhoods throughout the city, ranging from auto thefts being at an all-time high in places like Central Park to property theft in other parts of the city that I've been having conversations with. And so I am supportive of increasing the supports for and staffing for DPD, enhancing the budget for policing, but also thinking more strategically about hiring. And again, this goes back to management issues and financing, and how are we prioritizing both our workforce development, whether it's in community planning and development, or if it's with the Denver Police Department. We need to be thoughtful managers and recruit and retain a diverse, talented pool of individuals to come work in our city. And again, it's not just DPD, it's CPD and Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. So that's something else that I'll be looking at. And then fourth, core infrastructure. And we just had a conversation with the folks at the Denver Streets Partnership about investing in sidewalks. I often say, if you want to see the historical inequities in urban planning, look no further than the sidewalks, and then look up at the neighborhood around you. So there are many cities right now that are, and many of you, I recognize your names from INC meetings, so you'll recall the presentation that we had from the Nature Conservancy around hotter neighborhoods simply because of tree canopy, or lack of economic development and food deserts in other neighborhoods. And so my emphasis is going to be, how do we equalize and invest in those historically Black and brown neighborhoods throughout the city? And so part of that is being an active participant in economic development. And I think that this is a unique vision and a different vision that I bring to the table vis-a-vis the role of council at large, is because I'm going to be looking at how are we building an equitable city and investing in all of our neighborhoods, especially those that are marginalized, because there are still places in this city where you cannot get access to healthy food. And your source of nutrition is a convenience store or a pharmacy. And from my perspective, that is not what a great city is. And so those are just the top line four key priority areas. You can visit my website, travislieker.com. I released this week an 8-point action plan. And out of that 8-point action plan and blueprint, I will be releasing specific policy priorities and new agenda items that haven't been considered to help get our city back on track. I want to thank Victoria, you're on mute.
Thank you, Travis. and I was on mute. Does anyone have questions they'd like to address to Travis, Andrew?
Hey, Travis, thanks for
Hi.
coming. I guess my question is really, how do you approach, or what's your perspective on zoning reform? So you talked about housing affordability. We know zoning is a huge part of that. Curious where you fall, density, that sort of thing.
Well, I'm a believer in custom crafting neighborhoods. Each neighborhood brings with it unique characteristics and charm. And so my primary emphasis is thoughtful design, thoughtful neighborhood engagement, and being respectful of the qualities and characteristics. Now, I would have my head in sand if I did not acknowledge that we do have a woeful housing shortage, but I do think that there's ample opportunity in all corners of the city to be thoughtful about development and density. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at and evaluating on a case-by-case basis the development projects that are slated to be underway in your neighborhood or any other neighborhood for that matter.
Miles,
Back in the background. I'm gonna go shut this door. Oh, no, he shut it. Never mind. Sorry.
Miles has a question, and when Miles is done, I have a question. Go ahead, Miles.
Travis, thanks for presenting. I think I can remember back when we had an old council person, Wayne New. And what I liked about Wayne New, he did lose to the current council person, was he attended our meetings. He sat down with our street safety group. He coordinated with the city. He reached out, he got information, he got plans for us. So he knew what our concerns were. And because he attended those meetings, he heard what the voices were and the issues they presented. Now, currently, we've not seen our council person in a very, very, very long time. And in terms of, I've come across you in your leadership with Chun, and how do you talk about collaboration? Because I feel it's a top-down kind of a thing in looking at Chun versus a collaboration and a partnership to understand what the concerns are and sit down and look for resolution and solving them.
I wouldn't agree with that characterization. I think in the context of Chun and my tenure here, it went in 3 phases. One was near bankruptcy and stabilizing the organization. Next was rebuilding and reinventing our culture because we did have some poor behavior from a board perspective, as well as some operational deficiencies and administrative deficiencies that we needed to address, and we fixed those. And then, it was the vexing issue of what to do with our property, which we figured out a way to monetize it and have it not torpedo our organization as it did with its previous several owners. And then how did we get out in our neighborhood? So there is, in terms of my leadership and that question, we have robustly collaborated with a whole host of neighborhoods. I will draw your attention to a 10-point action plan that we authored in partnership with an unprecedented 18 other neighborhood organizations all throughout the city to get on the same page as it relates to addressing the unhoused crisis in the city. So we've collaborated, and in some cases we've complemented or funded other organizations that were not necessarily well positioned, frankly, from a resourcing perspective, to do the essential community outreach that needed to be done. So I'm proud of that record, and I think we have collaborated a lot, and there's always more that one can do. Now, in the context of your question with respect to your current council member, I'm not going to comment on how current council people are conducting their job one way or the other, but what I can comment on is how I would conduct myself in the role, and that is active engagement, collaboration, identifying neighborhood needs, meeting regularly with leadership, of respective organizations. I am a pretty honest person and straightforward, and so I call balls and strikes as I see them. I've had to do that in the context of Chun. I've had to do that in the context of my work at CU. And I don't see that me doing things differently on city council. What I can commit to also is not necessarily taking to Twitter when I'm upset with one of my colleagues, and certainly engaging in vitriolic dialogue in the social media sphere, just because that's just not who I am. And frankly, it's not befitting of a council member. And that's why I'm bringing to the table not only one of the most diverse coalitions throughout the city supporting my candidacy, ranging from former Councilwoman Elbert Wedgeworth to Councilwoman Mary Beth Sussman to legislators as well. It's because of the expansive network and the great relationships I've met and made and fostered over the course of my career. And I think that that's going to be pretty helpful and present with respect to getting the city moving forward. And then finally, I would also add, there's an importance of being mindful to district level representatives. And I use this a lot on the trail, and I'll use it in the context of this conversation. I see the district reps, council members being the bricks, and the capacity for the at-large member to be the mortar. So how do you build collaboration across council districts? And I have had to do that in the context of my work with Chun and also with CU. CU's footprint is pretty expansive in the city and county of Denver, ranging from our multiple entities, UC Health, CU Foundation, our colleges, our universities, and our annex educational sites. And so I'm well versed in both the relationships, the necessary relationships that need to take place at the neighborhood level, and I'm committed to bringing the same sort of style of leadership to this work as well.
Travis, thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to leave you with one thought, and then we need to move on to our next speaker. As Miles stated, we are currently not represented on city council. And we have a very specific neighborhood problem. And we have worked on it as a neighborhood for almost a year and a half with Doty and solid waste. We have a very ridiculous trash situation here. I understand you'd like to be the mortar, but we have a failed system, and those broad overreaching ideas are great for the city at large, but individual neighborhoods are failing, and ours is facing a real crisis. So as you move forward in your campaign, I would hope you would spend some time directing your energies at solving more granular problems when they're not being solved.
Victoria, I so appreciate that comment, because as you were talking, what you're saying, just in full disclosure, because I've been to 50 neighborhoods since embarking on my campaign and have heard similar perspectives. So I want you to know that Congress Park is not alone in that perspective. Just a quick example, and then I know you want to get on with your agenda. I was in College View neighborhood a number of weeks ago. They are sans a park ranger to help preserve safety and livelihood within.
Travis, that's great. And we can't get our trash out of this.
I totally agree. And they were without lights, Victoria, and they were without lights in their park. So I totally agree. And so in the context of your question, whether it's College View and the lack of lighting in their park because they can't figure out whether or not it's a city responsibility or Excel Energy, I will get to the bottom of it. And with respect to the trash removal that you all are expressing concerns about in Congress Park, I am committed to getting to the bottom of it, because one of my things, and I'm a stickler for operating and decision-making and operations and efficiencies. So one of the key questions that I will always ask is, why are we doing it? And is this the most effective and efficient way to do it? Or, and why are we not getting to the bottom of that? So I commit to you to doing the same.
Great. I would say start getting after it. Today would be a good day because we.
All right, I will do that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
And I'm going to drop my contact information in the chat, so you all have it, and I'll give you my cell phone as well. And so if some folks want to have a follow-up conversation, please bring your ideas. I've been in this neighborhood for 15 of those 17 years, so I'm excited to lean in and get to work for you all and other parts of the city as well.
Do we have someone here to present on the shared street proposal? No one? Well, does anyone have any other comments right now? All right. I'm going to make a couple of announcements to end our meeting. I want to encourage all neighbors to call 311. If you're uncomfortable with moving your trash bins to the curb, along with all your other bins and large item disposal, please call 311 and ask for them to come to your home and see your actual set of circumstances. Solid Waste has offered to come out and look at it. And maybe if they looked more, we would get a little more movement. Our annual meeting, our members meeting, will be December 7th. At that time, the board everyone will introduce themselves and we'll talk about what we've worked on and what we plan to work on in the future. And the election will begin then, but it will run through, I think, December 21st. We have a new board member that just joined us, Sarah Copa, who is here tonight, and you will hear more from her at our December meeting. And finally, everyone, please think about the Teller Backpack Program. We have a real need in our neighborhood, and any donation you can make would be great. Congress Park is matching the first $500 that are donated. So thank you everyone for taking time to come tonight. We really appreciate your participation. So good night, everyone.
Thanks, Vicki.
You're welcome. Good night.